Hey everybody, Anish Majumdar here, career coach and expert in the hidden job market, here to hopefully get that light bulb popping here, because this topic here is something that I see messing up candidates' job offers, messing up whether they get it in the first place, and causing rejections all across the board. What am I talking about? You're going to see the topic here, but let me just break this down. You're not going to get the job that you want, the dream jobs. You're not going to be able to rise up in your career by either being a pushover or B, some kind of reactive good student. And I'm seeing that all across the board. And in fact, in the conversations I've had, not just as a career coach coaching people like you, but being in the hiring room and hearing what those people are saying, I can tell you right now, they don't like people who have like, oh, it's a love fest. You agree with everything. You're a perfect fit for their job posting. Everything should be great. No, because you know why? They don't know with 100% clarity what they want. And they know that things are quickly going to post job. It's going to reach situations where they don't have an answer. And so they need someone who is going to have the courage to actually challenge them. They need to know, for example, that you have some standards. They need to know that you have your own criteria in terms of what you're focusing on, what you're going to be looking at, and what you're going to be deprioritizing. And all of these things go into giving companies, key decision makers, senior leaders, the confidence they need across multiple fronts to trust you as the person to solve this, to help them solve this, to put this weight on, to actually make this change happen. So I want to share with you 7 interview questions that you should have in your back pocket that will, just through your asking them, start that process immediately of, okay, increased leverage, changing the way I'm looking at you, and making sure that people immediately are understanding, okay, this is not going to be more of the same. This is not going to be a pushover or a good student. This is a self-empowered, self-realized expert in his or her own field who has massive unique value. As I do this, I'm also going to break down the overall way of thinking for these 7 questions so you can not just, again, good student it and ask 7 and say, I'm done, but to actually look at these ideas in a deeper way, sit with them, marinate with them, and create some questions of your own ideally. That would be the best move here, okay? So before we get into this, I would really appreciate it if you could take a second. If you are not already connected with me, hop on over to LinkedIn. I am sharing advice like this every single day, right from the trenches of the people me and my team are working with, teaching them exactly an end-to-end for getting out of job search hell and generating offers on their terms. If you're interested, I would really appreciate that. All right, let's get back to it. First one, all right? Sorry. A little bit of a signage on and off here. Number 1, okay, and here's the idea for it, okay? Show that you have standards, okay? Let me just repeat that. Have some questions that you come into every interview with, okay? They don't all have to be tailored for the opportunity. You should have a whole bunch of them. 80 to 85% of your interview strategy should not change in between who you're speaking with. But what standards can you have, right? So here's a question for you. I noticed that a lot of people on Glassdoor, that's a very common place where you can get advice, you can get stories, you can get insight from people who've actually worked at these companies. I noticed a lot of people on Glassdoor recently mentioned that employee turnover or lack of management oversight or lack of technical resources or lack of whatever is a concern. Is the company aware of this, and what steps are they taking to address it? So that shows A, you've done your homework. That shows B, you're taking this seriously. You're looking at this as an opportunity that you really want to be a part of, right? And just as importantly as the information that you get, realize that most communication is nonverbal. What I want to study when I ask a question like this is I want to study the way that they respond to me. Do they respond to me in a way that has some degree of transparency, some degree of openness? Even if they're talking about imperfect things, every company has problems. That's fine, right? But I need to be privy to that. Or do they shut me down? Do they stonewall me? Do they engage in some kind of negative distancing behavior? This is a major, major giveaway that you're not going to be having a particularly good time with these people because they don't have the trust yet, right? So asking questions like this that shows, hey, ask yourself, what types of companies do you want to be a part of? I don't mean size or anything like that. What types of people do you want to work with? What would constitute a company that's worth your time right now? What kind of a balance would they have? Asking some questions on that in terms of, how do you guys, manage the crush periods, especially when you have so many family people. I've got 3 kids, right? How would we theoretically do that, right? What would be the best way? Asking questions like this is tremendously powerful. So showing that you have standards is one area where you can develop questions, interview questions that will put the power back in your hands and start that process rolling. And the earlier you can ask these questions in the process, the better, okay? Number 2, how serious are they about career growth, right? A very, very important one. You cannot ask the generic ones of like, hey, if I do well, what's the next one? Anyone can BS you on that, okay? Here are 3 questions you can think about here, okay? Number 1, how does the company empower people to bring their best ideas to the table and make sure that they are heard, right? And kind of on the flip side of that, what was the last major idea that was implemented in this way, and what team did it come from, right? What do I want to study here, right? I want to see, hey, what are the feedback and communication mechanisms at this company, right? Is it easy for people across strata to be able to collaborate? Is it easy for people to work beyond and around barriers, or is it a siloed organization? No one's going to tell you that they're a part of a siloed organization, right? But you're going to be able to, if you are asking the right questions, you're going to be able to put 2 and 2 and 2 together to figure out what is going on here, right? These questions are tremendously, tremendously powerful. Here's another one. Where have previous people in this role moved to within the company, right? That's an amazing one. And you can even ask your interviewer, right? Tell me a little bit about your journey here. Where did you move, over the course of these 3 or 4 years, right? What I want to see is, do people not just, do they have a plan of moving people forward? Because that's a huge, huge problem, right? For leadership is people feeling stalled out. You were great at one job. I don't want to promote you because then I got to refill you and I gotta get you oriented here. It's a big risk. Why would I do it? So I want to see what's the real mobility that is going on here. And I want to see, look, there's almost no way you're going to be happy in a role unless 30 to 40% of it is new. That's basically what it comes down to. If it's more, great, but basically that amount is there. So when I say what was the last major idea that was implemented, right, or how do you empower people to move it forward, I'm also curious about that, because if that is also not going on, people are not happy at this company. I don't know many companies that are happy with keeping your head down, doing nothing of significance for 40, 50 hours a day. I don't see how that helps, right? Next topic here, right? So just to recap here, right? The areas are: show that you have standards, right? How serious are they about career growth? The third one here is culture. Is it BS or is it for real? Right? So what would be some questions that you could ask here? When was the last time the company culture played an active role in helping it navigate a crisis, right? I'm not interested in your PR mechanisms. PR is not going to help me when I'm trying to make this a go and I'm trying to serve my people, right? I want to know, hey, you say, you are filled with individualists, you empower them. Okay, show me how that actually worked. Show me where you used that. Show me an example of that's there. Because if you're not doing it, that means it's probably not being tracked. That means there's probably nothing quantifiable. That means it's BS, right? So asking more questions like that can be incredibly powerful. Here's another kind of wonderfully unique way to get an insight into the culture. Hey, what happens if someone makes a mistake? Just leave it open-ended. Okay, see what they come out with. Where does their mind go? What type of response do they go? Is it fear-based? Is it covering your butt based, right? What's happening here? This will tell you something. I don't know of a healthy company on planet Earth where people don't know, hey, I actually want you to make mistakes. Make the right mistakes. That's no problem, right? I don't want to work in a place where people feel terrified of doing anything. That's a company that's slowly going downhill, right? So these are fantastic questions, right? To evaluate for the culture, right? Evaluate for what you want, right? You don't have to treat culture like a BS thing. If you've been in the marketplace, you know the types of people, the types of situations that are going to make it more or less conducive for you to be successful. Start asking some questions. This is the key to a good interview, is not answering questions the right way, but asking the right questions. And if I could drill that into the heads of everyone I work with and everyone out there and your career is going to move forward faster than you ever thought possible. This is a game of asking the right questions, okay? Set things off on the right foot. One last question for you guys, because I want you to dive in deep here, take these 7, and then run with it, make it 70, okay? Set things off on the right foot. If I'm hired, what advice would you give me to make this role a success in the first 6 months, right? Tremendously, tremendously, tremendously powerful, incredibly useful in terms of bringing the person that you're speaking with into an ally sort of stance with you, right? You're saying, look, I'm not here to threaten. I'm relying on you as an expertise. Anytime you're talking with people who are leaders in the company or have high degrees of responsibility, taking the tack, of not relying on, don't play the ego game. Don't try to compare and contrast, okay? Be a student, right? You're here to learn, right? You're here to build this relationship first and have value in this relationship first. If it goes to an offer and we choose to do that, great. Great. If we don't, no problem. Okay. But asking a question like this, right? What would you do if you were in my shoes? What have you seen here? What would you emphasize versus de-emphasize? It's tremendously, tremendously powerful because it puts them in a teaching sort of capacity as opposed to a dictatorial capacity. And that's exactly what you want. Guys, if you want to go deeper with me, I did mention hopping over to LinkedIn. There is one other place, helloanish.com. That's Ground Central. If you want to go deeper with these career trainings, again, I have been an outsider, made good as a career coach for over 12 years. I started out as a journalist and an actor in my 20s. I've generated my own work and my own offers my entire life. And that gave me the opportunity to really open things up for people. To date, we've saved over 2,000 people from having to look down the barrel of Monster and Indeed and all this job board garbage. And if you're interested in figuring out how they did it, Hello Anish is where you want to go. Thank you guys very much for being here. I hope that was useful. Talk to you soon.